Yeah, I would say the most common mistake is to design something that either can't be built or it's very costly to build. So I wouldn't say it's a flat out mistake, but I would say they're doing the client a disservice if they design something that is going to be so expensive and involve so much structural work to achieve that the customer can't even afford it. So I had a job like that once before where the architect designed this massive 2-story structure on the house, which was a giant library with this, it was like a giant conservatory. And it was going to be a library with all these amazing windows. And when I priced out the job, they couldn't afford it. Now there was a kitchen remodel, bathroom remodel, all this other thing going on, which they wanted to do, but they couldn't afford this structure that he designed. And so he wasted all that time designing it. I spent a bunch of time bidding it, and I didn't even realize what their budget was. So it's a disservice to over-design without maybe bringing in a contractor early on to kind of give a rough estimate.
Okay.
So that is a mistake that I've seen some architects make where they're just sitting at their desk and they're just doodling along and they're designing a castle and it's their dream home, right?
Right.
And the homeowner's like, wow, that looks amazing. And then I show up and I'm the bearer of bad news and they're like, we can't afford to do this. I'm like, all right, well, I was just bidding off the plan. So that's one mistake, is over designing.
And it sounds like not bringing in somebody with a cost estimate early enough.
Yeah, or even just bouncing the idea, if the architect just picked up the phone and called the contractor, but I realize in some situations, the contractor hasn't been selected. So that makes it tricky. So what I'd like to say is that ideally you bring the contractor in during the design phase and then he can weigh in on some of these changes and alterations and say, yes, that's no problem. Ooh, that one's gonna be expensive. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's not gonna work because there's a footing and a post and a beam. So to answer your question, I think you need to consult with the contractor or the builder before over-designing the project or spending too much time on an elaborate design. I've also seen designers, they make some really nice drawings that look beautiful with like kitchens and cabinetry and counters and everything, and the window coverings, and everything looks great. Then I get there and I measure and everything's off like 3 inches. And sometimes it can be critical, a few inches, that we can't, put this cabinet in, or the window is gonna be too big and it's gonna run into a bearing post or something like that. So sometimes the designer will draw things that are inaccurate. And then I'm the one who has to discover the issue and then redesign it. And it's unfortunate because sometimes the designer is getting paid by the hour and the homeowner is gonna pay more money. Once again, if they just would have brought the contractor in a little earlier, I can just double check things even before they put all the finishing touches on the drawing, right? Like maybe have the contractor help measure the space to get that accurate, and then the designer can do all the trimming, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
But I've also had designers that are very accurate and they'll go in with their assistant and one's holding the tape measure on one end, one on the other end. They're writing everything down and I've seen accuracy like within a half an inch, and that's good enough.
Yeah.
So it's not everybody, but it's all about accuracy and measuring in my world. That's the number one problem I have, is inaccurate plans or measurements.